Now that I've gotten that introduction out of the way, we can move on to the very exciting, at least I think it is, step of actually importing our concentration data for ozone into the toolbox. So remember that these first two yellow areas are just introductory text. They're not actually buttons, so we don't click on them. So the first step was step A, where we made the new import text files, and that was outside of the toolbox. So now we're going to import that ozone file into the toolbox. So first thing we do is we want to click on B, import text file. You can click on the button and let's see what happens. I get this little pop-up box, and it's important to read these pop-up boxes because there could be really important information in them. So it tells me that this button's only going to work if my data file is a common delimited text file with build names. And as we saw in module 5, I made sure that that was the case. So if this is true, it says click OK. And if it's not true, then click cancel and go back to the SOP for a toolbox ready file for directions on formatting your file. So we know that this is true, so I'm going to click OK. And then this box pops up that says the import was successful. This is what you want to see, and so I'm going to click OK. So by clicking that button, my data have been imported into the first table in the series, and that's the temporary data import table. So I'd like to look at that data, and step C is taking a look at that data in the table. So since I've completed step B, I go down to step C and click on Inspect Data Import Table. So that brings up the data import table, and this, as you can see, looks very much like my new import.txt file. What you want to do is verify that the import was successful. And to do that, you want to scroll through the data and make sure you don't see anything unusual. For example, you don't want to see any blank rows, and you don't want to see anything like weird characters or something like that. So I'm just going to scroll through my data and make sure I don't see anything really weird. And it looks good. The other thing you want to verify is the number of records. This is really important, and this is why you wrote down the number of records in your database logbook. So if you look at the bottom left corner of the screen here, you'll see that there is a total of 336 records. We need to go back into our database logbook and make sure those numbers match. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to check my data logbook for that ozone file that I imported and make sure those numbers match. And in fact, they do. So that means that this import was successful. And since this import was successful, I can go ahead and close this table. Now, to close a table, you use this lower X button here that says Close Window. If you click on this top X here, that just says Close if you mouse over it. That's going to close the entire tribal data toolbox. It's okay if you do that. Your data are still in there, and you just have to re-navigate through the forms to get back to this point. It will happen. Believe me, I've done it. And it's totally fine, and it's okay. Just don't freak out about it. It's fine. You just have to reopen the toolbox. But I'm not going to make that error right now. I'm going to click on this second button here, the Close Window button, to close only the table. And that takes us back to the data import form. So the next step on this form is to click on this Continue to Transfer to Verification Table form. And what that's going to do is it's going to open up a new form. And by clicking on that button here, we're telling the toolbox that we're done with this first form. And we want to move to the next one. And in the next form, we're going to transfer our data from the temporary data import table into the data verification table. So I'll click on that, and that opens up this new form.